no one should understand the importance of daily meals more than Donald Trump. Hungry is his favorite emotion. It's his whole thing. Trump and food is like JFK and sex, or Thomas Jefferson and sex, or Lincoln and his... Said, if the West Wing is the mind of the nation, then the East Wing is the heart. As someone who worked and lived there, and the First Lady's office was in the East Wing, tell me about the heart of that place that is now lost.
Ooh, you know, that's where life happened. I mean, the West Wing was work. Sometimes it was sadness. It was problems. It was the guts of the White House. And the East Wing was where you felt light. You know, that's where children came. We had puppies. I mean, it literally apples and, you know, and it was an important distinction because West Wing team, they needed that break. You know, they needed to come to a place where they could be reminded of the reason.
Trump's presidency honestly felt like a reality show that completely ran out of writers, but somehow kept getting renewed just because people couldn't look away. Every time you thought it couldn't possibly get any weirder, Stephen Colbert and Michelle Obama would step in and turn all that chaos into this perfect mix of comedy and common sense. And the best part? They didn't just roast Trump. They completely shattered the fantasy he's been trying to sell ever since he came down that golden escalator, looking like a guy auditioning to play the world's most confident kind of confusion.
Cuomo has been polling behind in the race, but yesterday he picked up a big endorsement when Donald Trump posted, "Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice." Which, incidentally, was Andrew Cuomo's go-to pickup line.
Doing this. But let me tell you, Stephen, people have asked me how I felt about the move, and what I will remind people is that house is not our house. We never viewed it as our house. We were there for a time, we had a job to do, we always felt it was the people's house. And the notion that, and yes, every family, every administration has a right and a duty to maintain the house, investments and improvements, and there are plenty of things that needed fixing there. But the thing that it makes me...
Colbert started the demolition with the precision of a late-night surgeon, calmly taking apart Trump's latest so-called accomplishment like it was some ancient artifact from a lost civilization built entirely on bad decisions. He had this calm energy, the kind that comes from someone who's seen enough chaos to know that sometimes the best kind of revenge is simply keeping your dignity intact.
The administration says they couldn't use USDA emergency funds for SNAP. But thankfully, on Friday, a federal judge directed the Trump administration to use those emergency funds to pay for food aid in November. Of course, like all good news during the Trump administration, he managed to make it bad because now the administration says they'll only partially fund SNAP. And it could take months because the administration declined to dip into other contingency pots to fund the full $8 billion needed to...
Confused. I am confused by what are our norms? What are our standards? What are our traditions? I just feel like what is important to us as a nation anymore because I'm lost. There were a whole standard of norms and rules that we followed to a T that we painstakingly tried to uphold because it was bigger than us. That East Wing, that's not my feelings about that. It's not mine. It is ours. But we have to get, as a country, decide what rules are we following and who is to abide by them and who isn't. I am lost. And I hope that more Americans feel lost in a way that they want to be found. Again, because it's up to us to find what we're losing.
They kicked things off by calling out Trump's never-ending love affair with self-praise. It's like every week, he finds a brand new way to pat himself on the back for fixing problems he caused in the first place. Colbert nailed it when he compared Trump's self-admiration to an echo chamber with a spray tan. Perfectly ridiculous, but painfully accurate. He really drove home the deeper point, too, that Trump's idea of success isn't about making an impact. It's about how loud the applause sounds when he walks into the room.
Saying that Trump doesn't care about his followers, but Trump is saying it.
And by the way, isn't that breeze nice? Do you feel the breeze? Because I don't want anybody going on me. We need every voter. I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care. See, now the press will take that and they'll say he said a horrible thing.
Of course, if you say a horrible thing, people are going to say what you say.
For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen.
Then came Trump's speeches, those marathon word sessions that just seem to sprint in circles until everyone forgets where they started. Michelle Obama nailed it when she called them performance art and pure confusion, where logic just takes a coffee break halfway through. But instead of just mocking it, she turned that mess into a teachable moment, reminding everyone that real leadership isn't about how loud you talk. It's about having a clear vision and knowing where you're leading people.
Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs? And let me tell you this, going small is never the answer. Going small is petty, it's unhealthy, and quite frankly, it's
When the conversation turned to the economy, the whole room practically buzzed with irony. Trump's constant claims of being a financial genius felt like a running comedy sketch that never actually lands a punchline. Colbert joked that his economic bragging sounded like someone trying to take credit for the sunrise, totally missing the point. And then Michelle came in with the reality check, explaining how that so-called boom he kept bragging about left working families struggling just to get by, while billionaires were out there collecting new yachts like trophies.
I did have a strong opinion about the Republican nominee. Curtis Sliwa looks much better without the beret. Okay, let's fact check that. Here's Curtis Sliwa with his beret. And this is Sliwa without. Oh no. Oh no, looks like the chicken is cooking unevenly.
You know, that's a tradition. You do your official portraits. The next president is supposed to invite you back to hang them. We were never invited back, so these pictures have been done for a long time.
Colbert couldn't help diving into Trump's obsession with crowd sizes and polls. It was like every chart, every photo, every flattering headline was the air he breathed. At times, it felt like the presidency had turned into a high school popularity contest, except this student council president happened to have nuclear codes. Michelle, calm as ever, countered the ego parade with empathy, reminding everyone that real leadership isn't about being adored, it's about being accountable. Colbert's laughter was the medicine. Michelle's words were the diagnosis. Then came Trump's environmental record, or as Colbert perfectly put it, his lifelong commitment to pretending the planet is optional. Every rollback, every denial, every lazy shrug towards science became comedy gold. Colbert painted him as the kind of guy who'd try to negotiate with a hurricane, while Michelle, grounded and serious, brought it all back to reality. Polluted neighborhoods, rising seas, and vanishing protections. Together, their rhythm was flawless. Colbert made people laugh at the madness, and Michelle made them feel the cost of it.
I'm sorry, I stopped listening because I got hungry after the word dip. Is the dip in the pot? So Trump and his people are sitting on a pile of money while American children go hungry just so they can put pressure on Democrats. Well, I think food insecurity should not be weaponized. And if you agree, you can scan this QR code right here to support some great groups working to keep Americans.
Trump treated diplomacy like some wild reality show crossover, turning international summits into chaotic family reunions where nobody wanted to claim him. Michelle Obama turned that mess into theater, calling it geopolitics by improv. Funny, but painfully true. She took the humor higher by exposing the human cost behind the spectacle, the loss of trust, weakened alliances, and the absurdity of flattery replacing real strategy. Together, they made global instability sound like the world's most expensive comedy of errors. And then there was Trump's relationship with the truth, a tragic comedy all on its own. Every time he declared victory, reality showed up with the receipts. Colbert turned that into a running gag, joking that fact-checkers deserved hazard pay just for keeping up. Meanwhile, Michelle zoomed out to the bigger picture, showing how dishonesty at the top doesn't just confuse people, it steers an entire nation off course. Trump built his empire on exaggeration, and they turned that empire into the punchline it was always meant to be.
Really tough time right now, and we were being led, sadly, by people who are not being, in my opinion, their best selves for whatever reasons they have, whatever is moving them to to push this country in this direction, whatever hurts they have. Billionaires have their hurts too. You know, business leaders, people in power who want power and haven't understood their why can lead us down some.
When they brought up Trump's handling of the pandemic, the laughter suddenly took on a sharper edge. Colbert dropped lines so absurd they almost sounded made up, until everyone remembered they weren't. He painted Trump's crisis management as this wild mix of denial, deflection, and self-promotion, like a guy trying to sell umbrellas in the middle of a tornado. Michelle didn't laugh, though. She grounded the moment, reminding everyone that behind those numbers were real lives, and that a lack of leadership turned a tragedy into a spectacle. The contrast hit hard. Colbert mocked the madness, and Michelle mourned the consequences. Then came Trump's version of law and order, which Colbert compared to a man giving a lecture on discipline while juggling subpoenas. Every tough-on-crime speech came with a side of irony, considering his own trail of investigations. Michelle, calm as ever, cut through the hypocrisy, explaining that real order isn't built on fear, it's built on fairness. Trump's version felt more like theater than justice, more threat than thought. And when education came up, Colbert joked that Trump approached it like a tourist wandering into quantum physics, completely lost. He even quipped that Trump's idea of school reform probably involved selling diplomas in bulk. Michelle took that moment to shift from humor to purpose, stressing that true leadership takes intellect, not insecurity. Together, they made ignorance the punchline, not the policy.
Cuomo was asked about Trump's support on a New York radio show yesterday, and things got weird.
Your boy was just on 60 Minutes, Cuomo, saying that you're his guy.
No. First of
Trump said you're his candidate. If he had to pick a bad Democrat or what did he say? Or a communist. Or a communist, he's picking you.
Michelle's frustration shone brightest against Trump's endless contradictions. Every time he bragged about strength, his actions screamed weakness. Every time he talked about unity, division only grew. Colbert played those reversals like plot twists in a sitcom that just wouldn't end, while Michelle grounded the humor, reminding everyone that real leadership isn't about the spotlight, it's about service. Trump, she implied, kept mistaking the stage for the country. Then they tackled his international reputation, which Colbert described as a globally recognized brand for all the wrong reasons. From awkward handshakes to tone-deaf statements, Trump's diplomacy had the consistency of a reality TV blooper reel. Michelle connected the dots, showing how America went from admired to bewildered. It wasn't just bad optics, it was lost credibility. The laughter stung because it came wrapped in truth. Colbert quipped that Trump tweets like a man arguing with his own reflection, while Michelle didn't need jokes. Her silence said it all. She reminded everyone that leadership isn't measured by volume. It's measured by values. The contrast between Trump's chaos and her calm composure became comedy in motion, truth wrapped in restraint.
Transfer was happening when Donald Trump and his wife were moving into the White House. Mm-hmm. There was a gift exchange.
Oh,
there was a box given.
The Tiffany's box.
Yes. So what was in there?
It was a lovely frame.
What was a frame?
It was a frame. Oh yeah, this is.
First of all, he just walks up the steps without his wife. Just leaves his wife behind. He just walks up there.
Well, there's all this protocol. I mean, this is like a state visit, so they tell you that you're going to do this. They're going to stand here. Never before do you get this gift. So I'm sort of like, okay. What am I supposed to do with this gift? And everyone cleared out, and no one would come and take the box. And I'm thinking, do we take the picture with? And then
they couldn't skip the darker side of the economy. Trump's so-called record growth mostly just widened the gap between those who had everything and those barely getting by. Colbert joked that Trump's idea of the middle class was anyone who could afford his hotel prices, while Michelle went deeper, showing how policies dressed up as prosperity left millions feeling disposable. Together, they tore apart the illusion of success built on selective storytelling. Then came the environmental irony, which with Trump always seemed to loop back on itself. Colbert pointed out that his energy policy looked like a love letter to pollution, and Michelle laid out the moral consequences, a president more committed to fossil fuel profits than to future generations. Laughter and logic collided perfectly, proving humor can do what outrage often can't, make the truth impossible to ignore. Trump's ego became its own subplot. Colbert quipped it was the only thing growing faster than the national debt, while Michelle, with surgical precision, reframed it as insecurity disguised as power, his constant need for validation, fragile pride, endless self-congratulation, all revealing a man chasing admiration because he never earned respect. The laughter got quieter here because the insight hit harder.
Of course, with tens of millions of Americans facing hunger this weekend, the president showed sensitive leadership and hosted a Great Gatsby Halloween party hours before SNAP funding lapsed. Well, you know, I keep thinking Donald Trump is incapable of shocking me, and then he does something outrageous, like implying that he's read a book. This Great Gatsby party was just as dumb as you'd expect. Judge Jeanine went as a flapper, and Donald Trump went as, I think...
When they turned to Trump's approach to women, the irony practically ran itself. Colbert called him the patriarch of performative respect, a man who talks about empowerment while surrounding himself with enablers. Michelle didn't have to say much. Her presence was the rebuttal. Her calm dismantled his bluster. Her competence made his chaos look smaller, and the contrast alone was the joke. No punchline needed. They also tackled the culture of fear around his administration, where every dissenting voice was labeled disloyal, and every whistleblower treated like an enemy. Colbert mocked it as leadership run by high school cafeteria logic, while Michelle explained the real cost. When people fear telling the truth, institutions crumble. It wasn't just a roast. It was a diagnosis of democratic decay. When the conversation shifted to race and division, the tone sharpened. Colbert's satire turned acidic, exposing how Trump managed to twist unity into controversy, while Michelle spoke with the authority of someone who'd lived the consequences. She didn't joke. She explained that hate thrives when leaders treat empathy as weakness. Trump's America wasn't divided by accident. It was divided by design. The laughter that followed wasn't just for comfort. It was for courage.
I just want to say, look, I know that Trump's followers get a lot of grief from people going, no, you don't believe in anything. It's a cult of personality, blah, 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 meow, meow, meow. But I want to be fair here, okay? There is one thing that MAGA has believed from the beginning, and they still believe it. And that's that there is a secret cabal of top government officials who meet at shadowy dinners to strategize how to hide the sins of wealthy sex traffickers and pedophiles. They do believe that. And for that, I have never criticized.
Michelle then tore into Trump's relationship with the press, a never-ending feud driven by ego and insecurity. Colbert joked that Trump treated journalists like magicians, terrified they'd make the truth reappear, while Michelle called it what it really was, fear disguised as defiance. A leader who can't face scrutiny isn't strong. He's scared. The audience laughed, but it was that kind of laugh that hides a sigh. As they went on, Trump's contradictions stacked up like unsolved mysteries. A man obsessed with loyalty but allergic to honesty. A self-proclaimed champion of law who treats rules like optional. A patriot whose every move seemed designed to see how far a democracy could bend before breaking. Colbert turned it into rhythm, joke after joke landing like drum beats, while Michelle turned it into resonance, her words cutting through the chaos like calm in a storm. Then came the ultimate roast, Trump's obsession with legacy. Colbert quipped that he treats history like a Yelp review. Only the 5 stars count. Michelle dismantled that fantasy with quiet grace, reminding everyone that legacies aren't built on slogans. They're built on service. And when the dust settles, history doesn't care about catchphrases. It remembers consequences. The silence that followed felt heavier than any laughter.
Forgive me if I am worried that we will blow this opportunity to finally turn the page on the ugliness once and for all. Because believe me, if Donald Trump is president again, at some point or another, that ugliness will touch all of our lives. And it will not matter what you look like, how you worship, who you love, or how you vote. If you don't make 6 or 8 or 12 figures, if you're not famous, if you criticize or disagree with him in any way, if he doesn't view you as his equal or relevant to his ambitions, I promise you, he will not think about you when he gets it.
Of course, Colbert couldn't resist one final flourish. He imagined Trump's farewell address as the world's longest episode of denial, a performance where everyone else was to blame, and the audience had to clap or risk being deported from reality. Michelle just smiled, saying leadership isn't measured by how loudly someone exits, but by what they leave behind, and Trump left noise where vision should have been. Their roast wasn't cruel. It was cleansing. It stripped away the myth, exposing the machinery underneath, the endless need for attention, insecurity dressed up as dominance, spectacle standing in for substance. Colbert made it hilarious, Michelle made it human, and together they turned Trump's presidency into a cautionary tale disguised as comedy. Beneath all the punchlines and wit, they reminded America of something simple. Laughter can be rebellion, and truth can still entertain. Trump may still hold the title, but Colbert and Michelle hold the mirror, reflecting every boast as a blooper, every slogan as a cell phone, and every attempt to rewrite history as just another another rerun of the same delusion. The brilliance of their roast wasn't just about Trump, it was about the nation he shaped in his image and the courage it takes to look at that reflection and say, no more. Colbert's comedy exposed the cracks. Michelle's wisdom offered the repair, and together they turned the absurdity of his reign into the clarity of resistance. As the laughter faded into reflection, one truth lingered. You can't destroy someone who's already imploding. You can only narrate it beautifully, and no one does that better than Stephen Colbert and Michelle Obama.